So, is open source dead? You've probably seen this question pop up everywhere lately. It's a huge deal, and it's sent a bit of a shockwave through the tech community. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into this controversy that has everyone talking, from longtime devs to people just starting out. We're going to figure out what this all means for the future of software. And get this wasn't some tweet from a critic or a competitor trying to stir up trouble. No, this bombshell came from the founder of Cal.com, which is one of the most well-known, pioneering open source projects out there, a project that was literally built by its community. So, that's the big question, right? That's the mystery we're going to unpack. Why would a company that owes its entire success, its whole identity, to being open source, suddenly turn around and declare that it's dead? What is really going on here? Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the announcement itself, then look at the AI threat they're blaming it on. After that, we'll peel back the curtain on the business of open source, hear the community's powerful counterargument, explore the two big philosophies at war here, and finally, wrap up with why this whole debate matters so much.
All right, first up, the announcement that kicked this whole thing off. A pioneer in the space, making a huge change to its most basic principle.
The news itself was pretty straightforward. Cal.com was closing its core codebase. Now, for a project that was famous for being developed out in the open with tons of community help, this was a massive reversal. It's kind of like a town that invited everyone to come help build it, and then suddenly put up walls and lock the gates. So what did this actually look like? Well, before, the entire core project was open for anyone to see, use, and contribute. Now, that main codebase is closed. What they offered instead is this thing called cal.diy, which is a separate version that the community has to maintain, and it's going to lag behind the main product. The original is, well, it's gone. So you have to ask, why make such a crazy move? Well, Cal.com's official reason points a finger at one very, very modern culprit: artificial intelligence. Their argument is that AI has totally changed the security game. You know, back in the day, finding and using a bug took a lot of time and some serious skill. And you had friendly developers in the community who'd often find and report those bugs. But in today's world, with AI, exploits can be found and weaponized automatically and at a massive scale. And maybe even worse, the people finding them aren't reporting them anymore. They're using them. And all of this led them to a really stark new way of thinking. They're basically saying that in an AI-powered world, the transparency that used to be open source's greatest strength has now become its biggest liability. It's not transparency anymore, it's just plain exposure. But is the AI security threat the whole story? To really get what's going on, we have to pull back the curtain a little and look at the business models that are often working in the background, powering this whole ecosystem. You see, a ton of big open source projects follow a similar playbook. First, you release your code for free. That helps you build a huge, engaged community of users and contributors. That community then attracts really talented developers. And then, once you have all that, you start making money by selling paid services around that free code. Things like hosting, customer support, or special enterprise features. This was exactly Cal.com's model. Okay, so this leads to an industry practice that people don't really talk about in the open. Some folks call it the fork game, and it's a strategy that a lot of companies use to balance their open source community with their actual paid product. So here's how it works. You've got the public fork. That's the code the community sees and works on. But then there's often a private internal fork, and that version is usually a little more advanced. It might have special proprietary features, and it's the one that paying customers are actually using. So the public version basically becomes a giant marketing and talent funnel for the real commercial product. Now, as you can probably imagine, the open source community had a very strong reaction to all this. And let's just say they were not buying the whole AI security argument. This quote from Tanner Lindsley, he's the creator of the TanStack libraries, you've almost definitely used them, it just perfectly sums up the community's skepticism. He's basically saying the issue isn't that AI can read your code. The real issue is that your business model was using open source as a marketing tactic, not as a core philosophy. So the community's big point is this: closing your code doesn't actually make you any safer. This idea of security through obscurity, just hiding your code, has been proven wrong time and time again. You actually lose all the good guy developers who would have helped you find and fix bugs. Plus, the bad actors don't care if your code is closed. They're just going to point their AI tools right at your live website. And honestly, AI is getting terrifyingly good at finding flaws even in closed source code. When you zoom out, this entire fight really boils down to a fundamental clash. It's a battle between two completely different ideas about what the true purpose of open source software even is.
On one side, you have open source as a growth strategy. It's a means to an end, a powerful way to build a community and a profitable business. The business is the main goal. But on the other side, you have open source as a pure philosophy. Think about projects like Axios or React. They exist just to solve a problem and share the solution with everyone. For them, the code and the community are the goal, not just a stepping stone to making money.
So, after going through all of this, the business angles, the security fears, the philosophy, why does any of it actually matter to you in your day-to-day work?
Here are the big takeaways. First, whenever you use an open source project, try to look past the code and understand the business model behind it. Second, just remember that the open source label doesn't always mean it's purely a passion project. Third, there's no denying it. AI is forcing all of us to rethink how we build and secure software. And finally, getting involved in these big picture debates, it's not just noise. It's what makes you a more mature, well-rounded engineer. It shows you're thinking about the world you're helping to build.
Which brings us right back to that huge ultimate question. Is what Cal.com did a sign that open source, as we've known it, is dying? Or are we just watching the painful, maybe even necessary, first steps of its next evolution in the age of AI? That's something for all of us to really think about.